Recording in progress.
Yay!
You can have applause in now. You applause in now. Yeah. The trouble is that I got the mic from Mary Jane, so you need to have the mic up so it, you know, that this what do you call this mic? My guy in Africa said this is like a unidirectional mic. Is that what it is, Mary Jane? Yeah, it's a unidirectional, so when the sounds come in, it bombards it, and then all you hear is chaos. Yeah, it's not omnidirectional, that's what it is. So, January 14th, community dinner, we put the cleanse off 1 week, or the post-holiday cleanse. This is now, I think, my 21st or 22nd post-holiday cleanse. Wow, old. Yeah, 56. I started in, I got back from Mexico. I was in Mexico for Y2K at Zihuatanejo to avoid the end of the Western world. That never happened. Now, anybody relate? You know, Y2K, oh, the computers, everything's going to blow up, reset. Now I was on this beach party in Mexico with probably 50 Mexicans and 50 Americans. And you can't believe all the alcohol and joints going around. I mean, there must have been 50 joints. Every time I turned, hey, want a joint with alcohol? Tequila? Mezcal? Because we were alive. I thought we were going to be dead. So everyone was drunk as a skunk when midnight came. You know, I'm like, oh, we're still alive. So I came back, and that was 2000. We're 2022. Yeah, so 22 years of leading cleanses. Wow. So at this point in the year, you know, it's about our energy. And so we have the cold weather. What was it, 65 today? Right, winter. What a pathetic winter. We had a winter started there for a while. Yeah, we had some good winter there for a while there. We're trying to kill all the crops, get them blooming, and then put another cold spell through. Oh, I know their little game. Well, it's about disharmony, and that's one of the things I speak to is, I was telling Joanne here that one of the bases of my practice is to harmonize. So alternate nostril breath, for example, no matter what you're doing, it always works, because if you're too high, it brings you down, and if you're too low, it brings you up. And in essential oil therapy, those are the middle note, or in music, you know, the middle note. So like lavender is considered a middle note. So if you're too high, lavender will bring you down. If you're too low, it'll bring you up. The middle note ones in essential oil therapy, which I need to teach Bernie that part of it, because that's the interesting. Think of it as, you know, high notes will lift you up if you're too stuck, and the bass notes like frankincense will ground an overactive mind. I've done a lot of years. Frankincense, myrrh, sandalwood. What's that one? Patchouli. Those are all bass notes, you know. So they kind of ground out the kite up here. I call it the kite. And then you need something with a kite string, which is your kidney energy, or your rooted, your embodied self. Otherwise, the kite, they call that vata, right? The mind note. Sage, maybe. Sage and rosemary, I think, are middle notes, but I gotta look at that again. But yeah, grounding for sure is going to root. So that's one of the points, is to keep your energy in the winter. So, you know, people think cleanse, right? So when we do a physical cleanse, the most important part of it, one of it is, I put it up here. No, I didn't. And if you're watching this on the video, look at the description, and there'll be a link to the PowerPoint or the whiteboards here. I don't have it on here anywhere, so I'm going to move along. Online. Oh, the website. Yeah, that'll be changing over pretty soon. And there's, oh my God, there's a YouTube channel, a Facebook page. We've got a brand new Instagram page. The guy even got me on Twitter. I don't know what the hell I'm going to say on Twitter. I need this light. It's easier to see them.
I can see better too.
Yeah, there's a, yeah, I can't see them. And you know what's fun about what's going to happen is I'll do a post 3 times a week, and I send it to these guys, and then it goes through this thing, CRM. It's like a program that puts it out on all the social media. So one post and then it gets versionized, an Instagram version, a Twitter version, blah, blah, blah. So we're gonna have lots of fun, poking fun at the conspiracies too, because we have a private membership now. So the public face will be different than the private face. I'll be able to say things in the private realm, like this room, you know, like, hey, if you're watching this video, it's implied that you're watching a private membership association. So this is private. And you're acknowledging such by watching this video. Otherwise, you better turn off right now because you're on notice. There we go. See, we gave notice. Now, so it's about managing energy. What are the couple of ways that will ruin our energy? Let's see. There's some clues actually on these slides here. There's some clues there. There's seasonal eating from the whiteboard. And there's another one here. Yeah, there's just a few ways you can ruin your energy. So I got this new client. People are like, what do I take? Right? That's what I always get. What do I need to take, Craig? And what do I say?
It's processed, not.
I know. No, it's not what you take, it's what you take out. You don't add in. And one of my teachers would say, inflammation's like fire. So you've got part of your house burning down. And I want to feed this part of the house over here and ignore the part that's burning down. That's what you're saying by adding stuff in. I want to ignore this over here, my inflammatory lifestyle. And that's what D3 is, by the way, the vitamin D conspiracy. Morley just did his latest root cause protocol, why you shouldn't take D3. So I have the recording and the PowerPoint for that, yet another bit of proof. So, you know, like, why would you not take D3? Because you're messing with something we don't understand. You're messing with metabolic forces and hormones that we probably, you know, it's like, why don't we go, like, when I was a kid, I got sick and I naturally was drawn to the sunlight. There's your 27 forms of D. And you get one from D3, huh? Chaga, cod liver oil, some of the canned fish, sun-dried fruits and vegetables, you know, they all have forms of D in them. But we're sold this like pigeonholed D3 thing. So it ends up taking energy out of our mitochondria. I was telling Gary, like, you know, it's all about our energy production. We don't have this, the view in physiology is you have one mitochondria per cell. And it's not true. Different parts of the body have different levels of mitochondria, like the brain and the heart have like 10,000 mitochondria per cell. And so they're burning oxygen and iron. And that's what that's about. Iron and oxygen, they need to be managed. And so when you do too much, I was reading, so this new ulcerative colitis case stirred a bunch of stuff for me. I led her to the same place I lead all my irritable bowel colitis family people, is this book by this physician in 1950, Philip Norman. It's about colitis. And the two main nutrients are bioflavonoid-rich vitamin C and protein. That's how you heal a bad gut. Philip Norman. And I can send you the link too. SalineRiverPress.com has some archives of old health writings you can get, and so does ifnh.org. And you can get some old writings before the 50s that were where the real nutrition is. They're all archived PDFs pretty much, James. I have a lot on a hard drive too. I'm trying to, that's my thing, James. I'm saving as many of these old health doctor stuff that's, you know, might disappear. Yeah, well, yeah. All these dudes I'm working with, they're not even afraid of it, like Brian and Shahid guy. I'm kind of, interestingly enough. But this phone, speaking of AI, this phone needs to go off. Goodbye. If you have your phone on, you know, it's a pretty sensitive group. Probably a good idea to have it off. We're on airplane mode. There's a lot of sensitive people in this room. Can't turn the Wi-Fi off. I'm using the Wi-Fi right now. Oh yeah, it's all off. It's all off. Protein. And so, boy, what happened? What just happened? Oh, what's caused it to stir? Hold on, I'll go. I'm going to answer it in the whole group. It's all the same question. Yeah, it's quite enough. Speaking of which, a little fresher. Here we go. So this is all an edit gap. This will all get edited. So the thing to acknowledge is we want these mitochondria burning clean fuel, right? And so this doctor was talking about, which I hadn't heard this word, the ternary elements. Americans get too much of the ternary elements and not enough of the nutritional elements. So the ternary elements are protein, carbs, and fat and alcohol. And they're devoid of nutrition because they're acidic. Because what are the 5 basic building blocks of the universe, the chosen ones? Hint. Sulfur. That's the building blocks of all life, you know, of all carbon-based life, we could argue. We're talking about silicon-based life, and that's a whole other conversation. So, yeah, we could talk about. So ternary is a medical term they put out in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, meaning, you know, it's okay to have these elements, and you don't need vitamins and minerals. All you need is calories, what they were saying. But they made this fancy word up, ternary, which I don't even know what it means. You even know what ternary means? So Philip Norman uses it quite often in his book about ulcerative colitis in 1950 as well. Ternary, right?
Yeah,
It's interesting.
Doesn't it speak to something like
Dense, there we go. It's dense because dense calories. Remember, what are carbohydrates and fat in their pure form? What was I calling them last week? Reverse the word carbohydrate, and what do you get? Hydrocarbons. So, and hydrocarbons aren't good for us, are they? Because petroleum is a hydrocarbon.
Right.
So, because carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, see, they're acidic. And so we don't get enough of the nutritional limits, and that's one of the bases of colitis. And there's a quote in that, the same thing Royal Lee said, that he was talking about the pharmaceutical hucksters and the media propaganda, and this was in 1950. So they've been at it for a long time, but just playing this game a long time. And so he was trying, I mean, a lot of these guys gave their lives, these doctors in the 40s, 50s, and it was brutal. You know, some of them were killed outright, just all send the mafiosos in, you know, and wipe them out. And now they're just doing energy weapons. You know, oh, the doctor died of a heart attack. Oh, sure he did. Heart attack. Yeah. Sure. And where were the death rays coming from? Is my question. Or the death frequencies, right? So in today's world, then, how do we keep our energy up? And then we go into this emotional, because a lot of us just don't have the time or the wherewithal to go, I'm going to do 21 days of fasting in the middle of the winter. Are you kidding me? I mean, here in this weather, yeah, you can get away with it. But the solar force has to be balanced. You know, if you have too much cold this time of year, that's the protection. You've got to protect your solar force. That's your digestive fire. And that's what I'm dealing with this new case is it's just gone out. Her tongue looks flat, her pulses are thin. Her Ragland's test was perfect, which is one of those confounding things about excesses and deficiencies existing with one even individual. And this doctor in 1950 says that. This medical doctor says the most maddening thing about what we're doing is the fact that there's excesses and deficiencies existing within each person. And we know that in TCM, I mean, we're taught that, right? You're going to see excesses over here, but what do Americans get excess of? Ternary elements, acidic, and too much activity. And what happens when you burn your fire down, your log goes away, and that's yin deficiency. Remember, the fire is the yang and yin's the log. This is such an easy way to understand yin and yang, you know. So when your log burns down enough and you say, I don't have any energy left, you got work to do. Because to replenish that log, you know, it's like take some work. And what's the easiest way to do that? That nobody really does enough of?
breathing?
Breathing's one. Sleep. Yeah, sleep and rest. So if you can't sleep, you know, Yogananda said he didn't sleep. Yogananda said he was a point where he just stopped sleeping and he would just lay in bed and meditate. His body was horizontal, but he was awake. So, I mean, that's the plight he was on, you know. And another Father Solanus Casey, a famous Franciscan monk that I read his biography, and he didn't sleep much either because, quote, every nerve in his body was on fire every moment of every day. And 1,000 people came to him at least that had their incurable illnesses cured if he came back to God. That was his quote. If you come back to God, you know, repent, do your penance and show up in church every week, and people with polio and incurable diseases. You could read about it. Father Solanus Casey in Detroit. I had a girlfriend back there. We visited the monastery. It's just incredible. Because the Franciscans, they embraced everything. There was a Hindu shrine, a Buddhist shrine. It was awesome. I was like, wow, look at this Christian variation, right? Franciscans were of Catholicism. Yeah.
An interesting subject.
Yeah, Franciscans were out of. Is it all inclusive? So ideally, Catholicism embraces, but we're painted this propaganda picture that you're born in sin and you're broken, and this all-loving God will make you burn in hell for one mistake. I mean, 5 years old, I spotted that in the Bible. I was like, Mom, don't make us go to church because we're going to make your life a living hell. We're going to ask these questions that the preacher doesn't want to ask. So they never made us go to church. Me and my brother were, Sunday school, we destroyed the Sunday school teachers. They never made us do that again either. And me and my brother were great manipulators, and we would just destroy these people. I thought they were really something, but when they weren't. Yeah, I'm surprised. We're all alive. I'm sitting here, right? So I better go into some of the logistics quickly here before I ramble on. So when you do a winter cleanse, it's important to set an intention. First of all, like, why am I doing this? Like, well, my wife told me I should do a cleanse. No. Sure. Good question. See, that's what we're going to go into. Thank you. So, right, a cleanse can be spontaneous. That's called a healing crisis. One example of a cleanse that my friend found himself in was he tried going off coffee years ago. And some of you have heard this. And I'll speed it up. 8 days later, he got a cold. He calls me up. He's like, you think there's a connection to my going off of coffee? Am I getting a cold? And I'm like, oh, yeah, dude. Your body, the coffee was chewing up resources that are now freed up for your cells to expel their waste, because when your lymphatic system, so imagine each of us as a cell and the room is the lymph system, right? Well, we all have to go to the bathroom, right? Our cells have to go to the bathroom too. So the plasma or the lymph collects all that. And then that's why we have lymphatic problems, because there's too much waste and it's not getting out fast enough. And those show up in the eyes and the irises as these little white pearls called lymphatic pearls. And this client has them. Classic blue-eyed lymph type with colitis. It's not a colitis problem at all. It's her drainage outlet. The garbage man doesn't come fast enough for her. So the garbage cans fill up, everything gets congested and bloated. And then she always feels better right when her period starts, because that's the expelling of the waste, right? And going into her period was a horrible PMS. So you see the psychic thing here? She's filling up, and then she's filling up. I mean, men do it too. Men have a cycle. They just don't acknowledge it. And men have their own weird little cycle. And you fill up. At one point, I had a cycle of 24 days. I realized it would fill up, and then an emotional barf, and then a grandeur, like, manic phase for a week, and then a horrible bottom of the sine wave. It's called the sine wave, right? But you have to track yourself, and be honest. Like, oh. So she would expel and feel better. So with cleansing, there's not really any holdouts in here. Good. So when you're cleansing, the thing is that your psychic barriers are naturally broken down and you're more permeable. So it's really important you're cleansing, consciously doing austerity. In other words, limiting things like coffee and adding more raw foods in. The waste system starts moving faster. The cells start working more efficiently because now they have a place to poop, which means they can take in, because you can't take in new till you let go of the old. And that's what, in this client, that's what we've got is her lung pulses are just the weakest one. What does that tell you, John? Can you see?
Well, the lung and the large intestine are related, so she doesn't have enough energy in her large intestine to process all the stuff. And well, it could just say she's got colitis. It could be she's got a low lung pulse.
Super strong kidney pulse. And I haven't seen a case like where, usually the top one's the strongest, right? And the kidney pulses are like, and it's reverse of the way it normally is, right? Usually just strong at the top, medium, and then lower. That's how I've always seen it. And like, wow, but piled up grief. Never had a good male relationship, starting with the father. And so the masculine represents boundaries and fire and motivation. We're talking about the masculine, not men. And so she never had the modeling on the masculine. And very successful woman, very intelligent, on a lot of levels, a lot of stuff going for her, but never had a good relationship with a man. Wants a family. So 39, what do you see in a woman who's 39 who wants to have kids, never had a good relationship with a man? I see a lot of like burning frustration to, get what I want, but I can't get it because I don't even know how to fix this past stuff, right? And the gut is off as a sign of that turbulence. And so it's like letting go. And so, step one is she's not sleeping through the night. So it's like, what's in the basics? We got to get you sleeping. Yeah, at any cost. Sometimes it's like, yeah, at any cost. She's open to cannabis, which is great. So then the next one is, it's like step one, you got to get your sleeping, and step two, we've got to get. There's signs that reactive hypoglycemia because there's spontaneous sweating. So the way you tell a blood sugar imbalance is when there's a lot of sweat. That's low blood sugar. Dry skin is high blood sugar. That's the yin and yang of blood sugar. Doesn't make sense when there's a lot of sugar in your blood, your skin's going to dehydrate because it's taking all the fluid into the blood to dilute the sugar. The worst source of dehydration actually is carbohydrate excess. It's the most insidious form of dehydration. And we don't even acknowledge it. Because there's glucose is, too much is considered a poison in our bloodstream. There's so many interesting cases that come in. Like one lady, her insulin levels are so low, they're below the medical low, but her blood sugar is perfect. Her fasting glucose. So her insulin are packing a punch. Each of those insulins doing a lot of work. Pretty impressive, actually. Pretty impressive. Or she could have permeable cells to insulin. Like instead of being insulin resistant, she's insulin permeable. And you see that in the hair mineral analysis as a very low calcium to magnesium ratio, like 2 or 3. I just did a hair mineral analysis this week too. And just reminders of like how important these tools are. This guy that's wanted to figure something out and he did a hair mineral analysis. He's a filmmaker, so he's like, okay, now he's getting a better sense of like, here's where your work is. And then we're going to do the whole iron panel with him because he's got some of the signs that we might want to look at. Lyme, Epstein-Barr, there's all this, trying to remind people like Lyme isn't Lyme. All my Lyme, people can inquire, yeah, what do you do with Lyme? It's like, first thing is you make sure you're not leaking your life force out. Because these biopleomorphs, which is what Lyme is, it's a shapeshifter. And you gotta get a handle on that. Like there are bugs that are cloaked and they hide from us and they change shape and form based on need. And the weaker we are, the better they are. And so morally at the root cause protocol, so this paradigm changing statement last year, there's no such thing as illness. There's only energy deficiency. And I just went, yeah, chi deficiency, right? If you got low prana, low chi, So that's back to that energy thing. And you can't answer. There's 2 or 3 ways to measure life force, and that contextualizes cleansing. So what's my favorite way to measure life force quickly? Requires 1 piece of equipment and a pen and a paper. You already know. Yeah, the Raglan's test. Yeah, because that's quantified. It's medically semi-approved. And you can do pulses, but I mean, you guys know, pulses can be a little subjective. Michael Tira was 20 years in when he taught me 20 years ago, and he said, I feel like an amateur. And he was 20 years in. And to me, it's like, I don't try and interface with others well. I just kind of channel, like, I know the basics, the basic 28 pulses, like the foundations, and like, there's 28 basic pulses, just 28. So what Tierra did was he did the pulse dance. He made up a dance for every pulse. He was dancing around like the prison pulse. It was so fun. Like anybody who's danced would just love this because you could learn the pulses by feeling the energy embodied in the dance of the pulse. It was so fun. Oh God, no. But I think somebody has it on recording. We can go on YouTube and find it. Michael Tira pulse dance. he led some retreats up there, and there were some real corny ones. I bet you somebody got something on film.
But the pulse that they count, is that a universal count for all pulse types?
Count?
Like some of these pulses that,
Right, you're describing a different pulse locations. And Western medicine's gonna do it one way.
Right.
What do you call that?
Okay, so in a Chinese pulse, you have 3 positions. The first one's on this bone here, and there's a little, you can feel a pulse there.
Oh,
And so you're measuring 12 acupuncture meridians with 2 sides of the body. You have 3 pulses here. You measure on the surface, and you press as hard as you can, and then let up a little bit, and you'll feel a deep pulse. There's a surface level pulse and a deep pulse. That corresponds to 6 organ systems, 3 on the surface and 3 below. And so you get all 12 meridians. You get a view into them. And you know, the 3 of us have studied with some masters. They'll take your pulses and they'll tell you what's going on in, like, you know, a couple of minutes, right, or less. I'm not that good. I have to kind of like look at the context and look at the tongue and go, well, I'm seeing this. Right, they have a similar way of seeing it, but their view in is a, you know, from a little bit different. But they have the top, middle, bottom, and it's Vata, Pitta, Kapha pulses. Yeah, that's what Tierra's been trying to do. I've been trying to do it, is unify the systems, and that's what natural law is, my first attempt to do that. Because now I'm seeing natural law through the Islam, through my friend in Africa. He's showing me the state of the world, how the world works through the eyes of Islam, and it's, oh my God. Yeah, hearing stories about Hafiz and Rumi and all these tricksters, you know, and because that's what he lived with his whole life. And so it's really rewarding to see how the law of the universe works, because it's all the same, and we just have different ways of labeling it. So back to this then, the vitality is the most important part of your energy. So if you have low vitality, then I'm a broken record with this. Those of you who work with me, it's like you don't really want to do a cleanse, because when you're tired as a kid, it's a good metaphor, and mom tells you to clean up your room, ain't gonna happen. So when your cells are tired, they ain't gonna clean up well. They're not gonna take stuff in and let go well. And because the brain of the cell is in the membrane. And that's a whole piece there that not a lot of people even think about. The brain of the cell is in the membrane. This is Bruce Lipton work. It's all Bruce Lipton stuff. And it's also work from other teachers. So when I cross-pollinate with 5 different teachers saying the same thing from different traditions, it's like, wow, we're really onto something here. The DNA is like the hard drive of the cell's memory. It's like when a bacteria, that's why you don't need to have live bacteria probiotics. You really don't. Because the dead bacteria have the memory in the DNA of their life. And then the new bacteria that are down there eat it, and they go, oh, I get to learn what the progeny here learn that are dead. You get that, James?
I'm thinking that's why urine's so beneficial.
Sure.
Yeah.
There was a movie kind of about this where they were able to hook people up from an EKG, and they would record a dream, and then someone else, Dreamscape, was that the name of the movie? Oh, there was a horrible couple of scenes in that went wrong, but I was thinking like it'd be downloading all of me into James. Like when James was a kid. Okay, but dad, it's like dad downloading everything into you, right? And you get all of dad's memories and experiences. There's lots of Star Treks about this. There's lots of Star Treks about this. Like I get to have, you know, all these people's wisdom. And that's what in Africa, that's what they're still practicing, is the oral tradition. He said, you can't see anyone in the bush, most of Africa, you have to see a healer or learn how through the oral tradition. They don't do written still. And Carlos Castaneda's teacher, Don Juan Manis, was always poking fun at him with having his pad and paper with him. He said, throw that thing out. You're not going to retain anything through that. I disagree. I think the pad and paper is kind of helpful for us for my life, but imagine you don't have a pad and paper, then you got to just take it in. In college, I tried that. I tried not taking notes and then seeing what happened, and then taking notes and seeing what happened. And generally got better grades when I played the game and took the notes instead of the notes, you know, because they're testing for what they want you to say, right? Right. I saw that early on when I was interviewing in the corporate world. It's like, you got to find out what they want to hear in those job interviews, right? Right. They want to hear something, right? Oh yeah, I got a news story about that, but we won't go into it. So it's all about energy, and then the energy is made in the cell and how iron and oxygen are metabolized. So consciousness fits into it because we get stuck in consciousness, like some of my new clients are. And then what we're trying to do is get the chi moving, right? And Shahid said one of the ways I can tell that someone's stuck is they save and they don't keep the money flowing, the chi flowing in their life with resources, hoard and hoard and hoard. That's a sure sign of stagnation in the consciousness, right? Or someone who can't let go and just, like the feminine way of talking, like, there's a way of just taking in something, processing it quickly and just letting go and moving on and not getting stuck. Because fluidity is one of my markers of higher consciousness, right? Take it in. Does this need to be processed now? No, we need to move on, right? And it's that discernment, back to that. So energy means discernment.
Or somebody who is breathing. Yoga really suggests energy. I realized I just wasn't breathing.
Yeah, right. I wish Cindy was here. She would have a lot to say about that. She had some breath stuff last week, and so breath and mind, breath and consciousness, breath and thoughts are the what we always have access to, right? In our body too, we can always go, before our groups with Monica, we do alternate nostril and a few things, and it just opens up the energy a little bit. So we don't want to overdo it. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make, and we can tell through, like, Jim's going to get some lab work, and Jim's actually motivating me next week to go get a set of labs before and after the cleanse. And so cleansing can be spontaneously generated through this coffee guy story where he started drinking coffee again. And then I said, go off again. I bet you day 8, you'll get another cold. And sure enough, he drank coffee again. And 8 days later, precisely, he got another cold. And he was like, see, he's been doubting me since our mid-20s. I've known this guy 30 years. So he's been, he's like aliens and all this stuff now. But he's like, oh my God. We saw orbs above Santa Cruz 5 years ago. We were in Capitola. I saw 3 orbs fly above downtown and then disappear into the forest. And this guy's a military veteran. So, he's not like, woo-woo in one sense. Like, wow, that's really going on. Oh, and you'll like to hear this, James. I have a military clients I work on at Seascape, and one of the daughters is 20 and she's an experimental Air Force pilot. And she's like, my brother is, one of her roommates is in intelligence, Army intelligence. So she goes, I can't really say, but all I can say is that there's some crazy stuff that she's seeing through the intelligence networks. And she was only able to say their own experience because it's confidential information, but it's this alien thing. She goes, they're seeing aliens. I think they're being shown holograms and Project Blue Beams myself. And then that's just part of this whole, the alien agenda is coming, we're going to protect us from the aliens. The alien virus, the alien here, another distraction, another hoax that probably is a alien false flag.
So Craig, you talk about distractions, you talk about hoaxes, but when there's actually so much actual geologic evidence of all this stuff, it's not really a hoax.
Oh, I know there's aliens. I wouldn't.
A lot of things. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, there's a lot that's going on.
There's actual evidence of all kinds of stuff.
I'm just
reality.
Having seen through the game, this appears to me like, angels coming in and saying, I don't think they're actually seeing aliens in this case. I think they're being fed information.
In other words, you just referred to what is in effect, one of the games that's played with humanity where they choose an other, some enemy, then to
Pretend,
protect us from. And
protect us.
that's what you're talking about.
It's really them we need protection from.
Right.
Right. And then we're learning that. Yeah, we're learning that. It's the latest, right?
We need protection from the people who wrote this very manipulative book to control the masses to this time right now in geologic history. And the 1/6 of the Bible that's available talks about these times right now.
Oh yeah.
In the population that are Christian are like, oh, it's the end of the world, when it's a cover-up for something else that no one else is talking about.
That's right.
And
So,
here's
wait.
what they're not talking about. I just have this epiphany.
Okay, Epiphany, then we got to go away because I didn't want to go down this
I know
tangent
who
too
the
much.
aliens are. They're us.
In the future.
They're us. We are the aliens.
Yeah, we had an experience in LA like that, but I'm going to move on. I was sorry about the side tangent. So the labs before and after are a good way, and there's a couple of markers in the labs that you want to see your liver enzymes get better. If they were bad, like some people have too low of cholesterol. This guy had a cholesterol of 149, an adult male, and empathic, and so and he's adults above 30 to 40. I'd like to see it between 200 and 300 with the LDL HDL ratio that's correct. But the causes of low cholesterol, I mean, people don't, Mary Jane was asking me, and it's the correlation of violent crime, mental illness, all-cause mortality is all with low cholesterol. Those are all the psychiatric conditions are associated with low cholesterol. People with high cholesterol, through the Weston Price Network, they studied this, live longer and have a higher quality of life in general than those with low cholesterol. That's the data. Oh, yeah. Mess with your cellular metabolism and then have your fire go all messed up and cause dysaerobic reactive oxygen species. ROS is kind of like the danger. ROS, reactive oxygen species, and sugar and iron all have a relationship. So this guy is one of the few people I've seen where all of his minerals are low, but his copper levels are elevated. So wait. So copper being essential for this, see, copper and magnesium, they're the one that's harnessed fire. They're the ones that harness the iron and the oxygen. So his body, because his adrenals are weak, the adrenals help manage copper. But copper is an excitotoxin in its own right. So he's being falsely stimulated along by these high levels of dysfunctional copper in his body. So we have to kick out the bad copper and add in the good. And those of you working with me, what's the good form of copper coming from? Two main foods, and they're not vegan.
Garlic is one, but it's not vegan.
No, garlic, I think of garlic as sulfur. Liver and shellfish. Yeah. Nuts and seeds, you can get some. You can get some from nuts and seeds. I can do a screen share real quick. I should look it up. I'll tell you guys right now, because I can do that.
Okay, while you're looking up, is there a test to find out your balance of omega-3 over omega-6 or vice versa?
That's a good question.
Okay, leave it at that.
I have seen them. I've taken some, but I don't trust them, to be honest. Okay, copper.
Yeah.
Peas and beans have copper. Prunes have copper. I spent 4 years making this document with multiple sources, so these are good forms of copper. Yeah, prunes, dried peas and beans, so they're cooked, Nuts and seeds, nothing specific, so generally nuts and seeds are good. So egg yolks, there we go. Shrimp and shellfish. Buckwheat. I wouldn't have guessed buckwheat. Buckwheat. Liver. Yeah, it's fun. Butter. Butter. I like to hear that. And then some whole grain products. You'd have to look individually. And for many of us, this is the season of the oat. I have the Northern European ancestry. It's the oat, the barley cereal season, where they made barley bread and oats. And wheat was how they gained fat, and rye and oats are how they gained muscle. Was the old way of looking at it. So the Scottish would always make fun of the English horses because they fed the English horses wheat, they said, and they were wimpy horses. And the Scottish fed their horses oats, and they had strong horses. That was, I don't know if it was true or not, but it was one of the, that's a funny little anecdote.
Where does amaranth come in?
Amaranth.
So amaranth, millet, and quinoa are all, they're actually seeds. They're not technically a grain. And they came out of the Southern Hemisphere. In Africa, and millet was Africa, I think, more. And quinoa and amaranth were South America. Peru, okay, Peru. But the whole South American mountains had that stuff growing, And quick theory, how the nightshades made it over to, so Italy didn't have tomatoes, and Ireland didn't have potatoes until they came to the New World. So the story goes, right? So I think the shamans that knew the white man was coming to their, to the Western world, they set up so that let's give them our poisons, which are the nightshades. Let's give the white man our poisons and poison them. And then tomatoes became this big thing, right? And peppers and eggplants and they're all, and these were all these people's emergency foods, right?
I doubt that's not true.
To some degree, these were their emergency food, you know? So
So that wasn't in.
we're having a little fun with this because we don't really know, but in my sinister mind, I would think of doing revenge, like they killed all our people and stole all our gold. Let's give them the worst of our food. Yeah, that's what I would do. Yeah, conspiracy theorist.
Well, somebody said cannabis was a nice thing.
No, not even close. Not even close.
You just told me that, I think it was Dawn.
No, completely incorrect.
She's a
Correct.
nutritionist. What did you say? Dawn, she said that cannabis was a nice thing.
God, it's just,
Oh, wow.
no, it's not even close to true. It's not even close to the same plant family. Moving along, moving along. Let's move along, folks, because my talks are long enough. So you can also look at your own self. You can fill out some intake forms. I gave one to Jim, who hasn't filled one out before, the system survey that gives your symptoms by bodily system. There's group 1, group 2, group to group 8A, 8B, and male and female. So if you have a lot of symptoms in one group, then we can focus on that organ system. And then your eyes and your tongue are always good to get photographs of before and after a cleanse, because you can see if your eyes and tongue look worse after a cleanse, what does that mean? Because everybody wants it to look better, but not everybody's looks better.
You're still detoxing.
Right.
Yeah.
But a layer of the onion came up and the next layer up is even more toxic.
Okay.
It happens to people. There's like 25 layers and you pull the first one off and they think they're done. It's like, oh, you just started your journey. You just started. People think, oh, I did one cleanse this year, I'm done. Break. I mean, Michael Atira taught me in the early 90s, he said, you're underweight. So the way you're going to have to cleanse is you cleanse the poop out of yourself for a week and then eat a lot of food for a week. And then cleanse the poop out of yourself and then eat a lot of food. And then that'll keep your vitality up. So you have to get enough food, but you also be able to drain the waste because you don't process food well. And that's where this colitis case is. Her stomach acid levels are bottomed out. How do I know that? Because she has all the signs. Her group 1 and 2 in her system survey were the top score, which means she's in sympathetic nerve dominance. Now, what is your body concerned with when you're running from the saber-toothed tiger? Where's it going to put all the blood? Your muscles to run. There's nothing going into digestion when you're in fight or flight. Nothing. And that's how this woman's going through life in fight or flight, which is under our control to a large degree. How we're processing, because we're not going to avoid stress. You cannot avoid stress. This is how we perceive and integrate it and move along, that fluidity thing. So if she's constantly in fight or flight, she's not making any digestive secretions. I mean, she's got rot and overgrowth in her gut. And that's what I saw in her tongue. It wasn't even pink or purple or red. It was like this grayish, half purplish, heavy white coat, swollen. I'm looking at this thing and red tips on the front. What do red tips mean, Monica? Remember? They call it heat toxins in Chinese medicine, but these Westerners that I studied with the Center Process said, no. The heat toxins, that's unbroken down estrogen. Those are cherry hemangiomas medically. They're tiny little pinpoint red dots. That's called the cherry hemangiomas. You also see them in women here and on the inner thighs and on the back. They're little red dots. And the more of them there are, that's estrogen that's not being broken down by the liver and it's backing up in the body and coming out as heat, which is red. Red's always heat. I beamed him. He was asleep and I go, hey, you gonna wake up over there? I beamed him for a second. That's great. So that's back to if the liver, remember, vitamin D is a hormone and the liver has to break it down. So by taking it in exogenously or from the outside, you're burdening your liver even more. Now, if you have seasonal affective disorder, like I said, and you live in, I got this guy in Alaska, I just sent him some D3 with cod liver oil. So he's taking his D3 and he takes his St. John's wort, and St. John wort's a light bearing plant. It has a yellow flower that turns red when you tincture it, right? So St. John's wort, it's an herb of the sun, so it's great for someone that's in that dark. They're probably just coming out of it right now, right? Up in Alaska, probably just starting to get a little bit of midnight light. I just can't imagine, like, still dark 24/7.
No, not seven, it's just.
Like of twilight, a few hours of twilight. So K never needs to be taken exogenously. They inject our children with vitamin K. Why do you think?
To lower some IQ points. Oh, the Western pregnancy lowers between 30 and 50 IQ points.
Okay, guys.
But let's not segue on that, although I'd like to.
There's another thing with IQ of children. The parent's iodine status
Exactly.
largely determines the IQ of the child. The parent's iodine status largely determines the IQ of the child.
And also, doesn't it affect their potential to grow?
It does. So iodine is a big problem because it's been demonized in this country. And we've chlorinated the water, we've fluoridated the water, these all displace iodine. And then there's brominated pools and bread. They used to use iodized bread, now they have brominated bread. It's all been a systematic plan to trick people. And Dr. Guy Benjamin in Berkeley called out the Wolf-Chaikoff study in the 60s. These rats, they measure like 10 rats. And so, oh, iodine's toxic. And I just looked in the medical journals, the NCBI the other day, looking up what iodine does in nature. And what does this guy say in a related article? That any iodine above 1100 micrograms is toxic. That's 1.1 milligrams a day.
Your body only stores it for so long. And they figured out that depletion was creating massive retardation in the middle of the United States.
That's right. They knew
Because
it.
people weren't eating seafood.
They knew it.
And the Native Americans knew that. No, they deliberately did it.
That's
And
right.
They're deliberately doing it now.
They're deliberately doing it now.
Yeah.
Because fluoride, sodium fluoride, makes you susceptible to suggestion. It's well known in psychiatry. Oh yeah, you put fluoride in their water, lower their iodine levels, put them in front of the idiot box, and you have programmed puppets. It's a perfect system.
It was used in concentration camps.
That's right, it was. Sodium fluoride was used in the Nazi concentration camps.
Yeah.
Sodium fluoride. Yeah. No, that's something else. That's disodium phosphate or trisodium phosphate. Yeah, there's disodium phosphate there. So if you guys want to clean out your bile system, there's a bottle up there of disodium phosphate. And we do those before gallbladder cleanses. You do apples all day, and at the end of the day, you do a bunch of disodium phosphate, and it'll dissolve that. Michael McAvoy asked me for that, actually, because he was trying to get this jabbed person with necrotic tissue back to life down in Mexico. Yeah, so I had a bottle of that. So I worked in a restaurant cleaning floors, mopping floors when I was, 30, 40 years ago. And they were using trisodium phosphate as a degreaser on the floor.
Right.
And-
It's good for prepping for paint.
Really?
Oh, yeah, it'll burn paint right off. the
Really?
Surface. Oh, yeah, if you put it in hot, it'll take paint right off.
Does it feel hot to the touch?
Yeah, it'll burn you, yeah.
So my shoes, I had shoes this thick when I was mopping the floor one day with too much of this trisodium phosphate. And my feet were burning when I went home, and it dissolved all the way through to the sole. I had no idea.
Right, yeah.
There were those rubber kind of soles, and I couldn't believe it, you guys. I was riding my bike home. Why do my feet hurt? And there was no sole on my shoes. They're like that much, half inch of sole completely dissolved.
Yeah.
I made the owner buy me a new set of shoes. Like, you got to buy me a set of shoes, dude. That's ridiculous. You should tell me something. Oh no, he loved it. The owner loved it. So he got me a pair of shoes with soles that wouldn't dissolve, basically. Wooden planks or something, I had these really hard soles. He got me these shoes. They were like wooden planks, clank, clank, clank. But they wouldn't dissolve, So I just wore them at work. So for those of you watching the video, I'm going to show you on the screen share here there's this forum that Monica and many of us are aware of. It's called the Systems Survey Forum. And it's a really good forum to see where you're at. If I had one forum to give to anybody, that would be the forum. And there are people at Standard Process that use the Standard Process supplements. That's the only thing they use. They don't do an exam. They don't do anything. They have a Zoom thing and they haven't filled the system survey form, and they monitor them every couple of months. They have them refill out the form, and a little one-trick pony for me, but you know, you need at least a couple of tricks. Yeah, I like a 5-trick pony person. Like, you know, you go to those massage therapists at the spas and you tell them what you want, and they just have one way of doing it, and they might give you like an extra minute or two of fluff in the area. You know, I call it a fluff and fold. You ever had a fluff and fold massage? They're so frustrating. You're like, will you please just grind in there a little bit? Oh, let me just, oh yes, fluff you up. Yeah, I've had a few of those at Kiva, actually. Okay, here you go, folks. So if anybody emails me, contact form's good. This is the form here. And so there's a couple of groupings for the nervous system. There's a grouping for the blood sugar elements. There's a grouping for the cardiovascular system, the liver and the biliary system, the digestion, the thyroid, the brain, the adrenals. And there's a whole grouping of they call foundational nutrition, but they used to call it B vitamin deficiency syndrome. And they're giving out all these purified Bs now. One of my clients is all happy about her. I got my methylated Bs. I go, so where's your methylated Bs coming from? Where's the starter material? And she was mortified to figure out that it was the United States Pharmacopoeia. It's coal mining waste. That's why I use Standard Process Bs. And that's why we're B vitamin deficient, because the best source of Bs is animal organs, especially liver and wheat germ and rice bran and nutritional yeast and things people don't eat much anymore. And so we're B vitamin deficient, which means we're energy deficient. And there's a huge correlation of B1 deficiency with gut problems. Because if you can't make energy, the B vitamins in a nutshell are understandably about converting matter to energy, or matter to a different form of matter we call connective tissue or resources, right? And they're the intermediary cofactors, and they're not chemicals. And they're selling us chemicals from coal mining waste. Oh, you need methylated Bs. How come my teachers at Standard Process use whole food Bs? Never had a problem with these MTHFR things. Not even once. Because they use whole food Bs. Whole food Bs don't need to have methylation because they have the factors to methylate themselves. The enzymes are there. But when you get a chemical B, you run into problems.
Is that indicated on the bottle when you buy the whole food?
If you see USP on a bottle of vitamins, you need to throw that bottle out. Run. This client had her orthomolecular product, you know, with some product, you know, it was like their big vitamin thing. And I went down the list for her online, the Zoom call. And I like, look at this, USP, 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 USP. And that was a tough pill for me to swallow 12, 13 years ago. I was like, what? Coal mining waste? And ascorbic acid, what? Made from corn syrup? GMO corn syrup? I mean, sugar and ascorbic acid are only one enzyme removed from each other? Holy mackerel. And D3 is irradiated fat? What? You know, so we've, vitamin E used to be wheat germ oil with vitamin E. And then they figured out that soy tocopherols were easier to grow, and they made tocopherol vitamin E. But the vitamin E complex is a lot more than tocopherols. The vitamin C complex is a lot more than, so that's where copper comes in, folks, too. Copper is part of the C complex. Yeah.
Would it be good to put that vitamin E tocopherol on your skin as opposed to adjusting it?
Well, it's an antioxidant, so it will help, yeah, with antioxidation, but that's its only function, really. Whereas wheat germ oil, you're getting all the tocotrienols, you're getting the selenium, the lipositols, and all these other part of the E complex you're not getting from tocopherol. So I have a study on here. It was done by a Standard Process doctor that wheat germ oil was analogous to E. And I showed you guys in the call, vitamin E has, when you add up all the tocopherols, all the tocotrienols, and all the factors, wheat germ oil is 2 times above everybody else. Any other oil. Any other oil, it's 2 levels above. That's why I take 6 to 8 a day. It also helps, elevate cholesterol if it's low. So I got this guy in wheat germ oil. And it also helps your hormones balance. And wheat germ oil also helps with parasites. A lot of weird functions for wheat germ oil. Well, the problem with wheat germ is you want defatted wheat germ because the wheat germ oil and wheat germ goes rancid in a week. So you want defatted wheat germ. You want defatted wheat germ. Yeah, because defatted wheat germ.
Thank you.
Bernard Jensen was the guy that used to really recommend wheat germ. I remember my grandma would put it in her, her banana breads, wheat bran and wheat germ. It was, as a kid, it was like she had the Oro wheat, the whole grain breads and the buckwheat corn Aunt Jemima waffles with Caro syrup. I'm like, Grandma, you suck. Buckwheat waffles with chunks of corn in them. I kind of got into it after a while, but my brother wouldn't eat it. This dark brown waffle with these yellow chunks in it. My brother's like, no, I'm not eating that. Give me a pancake. I better go off the screen share. So the other way, so you want to see, like, people like to be measured, right? So the labs are $35. It's really simple. I just kind of baby step Jim through it a little bit. You just click the link and then you get your forms, fill it out, get your forms, and then you go to Dominican and yeah, the guy likes you to wear a mask. It's only one dude in there and he's.
Are you talking about Quest?
No, this is LabCorp. I don't use Quest because their accuracy isn't as high as LabCorp in general. So the LabCorp office is in the freestanding building at Dominican, and it's the guy's been working there 17 years. Last time I was in there a month ago. He's just so cute. I just love this man. He's very effeminate, but very caring, and he runs the office by himself. It's just him. That didn't come out quite right, but so. Effeminate is caring, isn't it?
Exactly.
Effeminate is caring. So wait a minute. Thank you for a correction. Like, wait a minute. That didn't add up, did it? Thank you for the correction.
What does it have to do with Vegemite?
Oh Lordy. I'm turning red, man. So he's great, you guys. I can't recommend him enough. I don't even mind wearing a mask. He's just so nurturing. Yeah, this guy's great. And so if you're going to do a cleanse, then the basics, there's the basics. Okay. So for 3 weeks, you can do the basic food chart. And it's a chart of proteins and fruits and vegetables and all that. And I want to have an easy cleanse, Craig. So, okay, just eat what's on this chart. I like to not tell you what you can't eat, or to tell you what you can eat. We don't want the negative stuff. So here's a chart of foods you can eat. End of story. If you want to austere yourself down a little more, and yeah, no coffee is part of it. So I've been doing this hydrogen water machine and my Rife machine and all my little machines, and I've been able to drink coffee, like 15 out of 20 days as an experiment, and it's got to stop. It's just got, those anybody who knows me this has got to stop.
What do we call that $35 lab test?
Well, no, they used to call it a comprehensive wellness panel because it's a lipid panel, it's a complete blood count, it's an electrolyte panel, it's a metabolic panel. It's like 5 panels in one day.
It used to be a comprehensive lipid panel.
No, comprehensive wellness panel, which encompassed a lipid panel, a liver panel, a metabolic panel, a mineral panel, and a complete blood count.
What's it called now?
Life extension.
They changed the name today. I was showing Jim. Like, remember Jim? I was like, oh, they changed the name, man. So here, I'll give it to you, James. James, I'll give it to you. Hold the fort. I'm finding it out right now. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
This is being recorded, you guys. Please. All right. James, I just give people the link. You have to think about it. It's on Life Extension, and it's called, I've got to get the link right now. Yeah, we used to call it a comprehensive wellness panel, and now they're calling it complete blood count / chemistry / lipids panel blood test. Sucks. Comprehensive wellness panel was way better than that because this is not what it is. I'm sorry to say. It's not a blood count and lipids panel. You get a blood sugar, a kidney function panel, electrolytes, liver function, lipid, and a complete blood count. That's what it is for $35. If you go on Life Extension, it's a complete blood count / chemistry / lipids panel blood test. This set of tests, you get 6, 12, 20, 27, 35 panels in one. So it's like $1 a panel for 35 bucks. No, it's always this way. They put it on sale for 25% off of 35. Lifeextension.com. Yeah.
Okay.
But I give people the link. Okay, I'm gonna go back one step, you guys. Go back 10 years. Craig has a lab healing centers tab on my Google Drive, and I have 9 panels where I can order panels for myself without having to go through a doctor because the doctors suck. So I'm saying, we're going to do it ourselves and avoid the doctors. So now you can go to my Google Drive, or will eventually be a website. I want to order some labs without having to see a doctor in the private membership system. So everybody be able to order panels on their own, no doctor needed. And then one of us will interpret it for you. Because that was the point, was to build a system where we don't need them. We want the good ones like Carl and Tom Urema, and we want the good ones. We just want to get rid of these brainwashed medical school dropouts that think they're going to tell us something, So yeah, you guys, I've spent almost 10 years developing this, and now it's a button, literally. I can send you the link, you can click and go there. And if you have an Apple, it won't work well. Apples and Google Drive don't work well together. I know because I had an iPad, and Monica knows. So you have to have a bunch of apps on your Apple, like Google Drive apps and Google Chrome apps, and it just sucks for those people. But you can do it, and you can get the links and at least go to the site itself without having to go through me, at least. And it's just empowering to realize, because this same panel, $35 panel, guess how much they'll bill your insurance for it? $500. You're right. Ding, 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 ding. The thyroid panel I can get you for $90, a full thyroid panel with the antibodies, with reverse T3, which is never on a full thyroid panel medically. They never put reverse T3 on there. And both antibodies for $90. Guess how much they bill the insurance for that panel? $900. It's all game. Yeah, it's all game. They bill a lot to get a portion of it. I went through that, the billing thing. You ask for $900 and they might give you $450. They have these expediters. I helped for a while in this one office, the expediting, talking to these. It's a game, It's like negotiation, right? It's just disgusting. You guys, there's too much side conversation. My ears are just the what? Oh yeah, Michael McAvoy has a blood lab thing, and it's on there, but it's not within I'm trying to keep it really simple, so that's way off too much for this audience. So blood panel, hair mineral analysis also is $45, and if you do your eyes and tongue in a form, then you're looking pretty good. Like hair mineral analysis is $40, 45. That panel's 35, that's 80. Well, eyes and tongue are free, that's your phone, but filling out the forms is free. And you pay, Craig or somebody $50 for a half hour to go look at it. This guy tried to get away with a half hour the other day and ended up being an hour. Because there's context, and I can give somebody the data in a half hour. I can do it on a report. Some clients say, I don't want to talk to you, just send me the report in an email. And I do that a lot. Here's a link, go look at the report yourself. And I can do a video report too, which is nice. But yeah, it's nice to have the conversation, the give and take. What's the context? What are your goals? What are we trying to do with these labs? So that's what that part's about. And then you go into the cleanse, and then you can do more filtered down to there's a weekly challenge. There's like weekly goals. So if you want to go beyond the basics of that one simple chart, you go into the weekly. And the weekly's got some guidelines and there's some more different choices you might do. But if you're overwhelmed on the basic food chart, you probably don't want to do that. Then the furthest one down are the daily challenges, and there's 3 levels of those. So like a level 3 challenge would be fasting. A level 1 challenge might be you have 4 carrots today. So the level 1 challenge is you can look at all the 21 days and go, well, I could have 4 carrots on that one day. And a level 2 challenge might be lay in bed all day and don't do anything. And for the winter cleanse. Try it. I mean, I've done it. Yeah, the only time you leave bed is to eat and go to the bathroom and step upright and drink. Get another book, get another book. That's right. Has anybody ever done that? Wonderful. Take 3 days and
My favorite time of vacation.
yeah, don't leave bed.
That's when you get sick.
There you go.
Well, then it goes on too long, right? It goes on too long. So that's a level 2 challenge. There's a lot of energy tonight. So the fasting are the hardest and the enemas are level 3, and try being silent for a whole day. That's level 3. They're going to silence for a day. Yet at the Adyashanti silent retreats, you're encouraged only to sit in meditation, eat, go for hikes, and sleep. No journaling, no music, no reading. Yeah, they are discouraged. At Mount Madonna, they kind of like, these retreats are like, because I don't want to be doing a silent retreat and have all and be looking around at women. And that is just too distracting. Counterproductive. It's like keeping me, so it's like, put the blinders on and look down. And that's a lot of people were doing that. And then you can tell people that were just dying of wanting to talk as 2 or 3 days into it, they're like in the cafeteria at Mount Madonna. It really is. It really is.
You can wear a little note
Okay.
inside.
I'm going to move this along. We're at 9:30 now. So that's another way. So there's the point is you can zero down to some pretty deep austerities and challenges and accelerate. So Gary, the more enemas we do, the more colonics we do, the more raw food we do. So this time of year is not about caloric deprivation per se, because if the weather's cold, you want to keep your vital chi intact. So that means don't do cooked fats, do raw fats, because then you won't stress your system and you'll still be able to cleanse. Because the more enzymes we use up eating cooked food, the less we're going to be able to cleanse. The more cooked food we eat, the more we slow down our cleansing. Raw butter would be a. Now, ghee is one exception. I was talking to Shahid about that, and just universally, it's viewed, and I've seen it that way, as very digestible because it's, just purified cooked fat, right? And it's that yellow pigment is the carotenoid, the vitamin A to some degree. So I would put ghee on as far as cooked fats go, it's a level kind of on its own. I've read enough and studied it enough and used it enough, because you can, some of the neurological herbs like gotu kola are infused into ghee, and they're given that, and they use ghee. I've used ghee to cause a cleanse where you just keep doing more and more ghee every day, and finally it greases up your intestines so much the food just slides right through. You have to about a quarter cup a day or something, and it's like stuff just slides right through. That's why they make ghee, because in India, where it's boiling hot, in Pakistan, the Muslim nations, Islam, they make ghee because the milk is curdled in 24 hours in that heat. So they make the ghee to keep it so they can keep the milk fat around longer. And they either eat or discard the rest. Yeah. I mean, we're so spoiled here. It's refrigeration for everything. You realize our ancestors were driven by salt and honey and sugar because that's how they preserve stuff, and drying and salting and sugaring and honeying and probably all kinds of other ways too. Freezing. I guess excessive heat would turn into ash. I guess some people do that. Turn stuff into ash. So you decide, and what are your intentions? Like, if I'm ever, I've been cleansing so many times, I have to really go deep, like, almost like daily enemas to really get anywhere these days. But some of you just doing the basics are just stopping coffee, stopping cooked food. Let's see what else, stopping alcohol, stopping eating late. What's another bad one? Minimizing carbs. Searching out having more raw protein, more water, having adrenal tonic water with your lemon and salt and potassium in it. That's a nice, way to boost your adrenals up. Celtic salt, if you're in the public watching this, please don't use those pink salts. Oh my God. I was just talking to a client that has glaucoma. I can't eat salt. I'm like, 30 years using Celtic salt. I've never seen anything aggravated using Celtic salt. You step outside of that, I can't help you. Your pink salts, we don't know anymore. All the other salts, questionable. We trust Celtic because they do a mineral assay every year. And we know the contaminants. They're very upfront about it. Other salts, we don't know. Now, the true Himalayan pink salt's still a good deal, but it's hard to find it anymore, the real stuff. My friend Shahid, who was born in Pakistan, he was telling me, he's in Africa now, but he was saying that there's so many salt mines in Pakistan. He goes, it's almost ridiculous. You go out and there's just unrefined salt vendors in every. Hey, here's the one. What's the difference between a market and a bazaar? He was telling me that in Africa, the difference between a market and a bazaar. I love the distinction. You're onto something there. The bazaar is more of a bargaining amongst people that know each other, and the market's open to the public and anybody can come.
Oh.
That's the way he defined it to me. Yeah, isn't that cool? So he goes down to the bazaar with all the locals, and they have another market for the tourists. But the bazaar is where they trade and barter, and generally the outsiders aren't told about it. Yeah, like we would have a bazaar here. Like my friend up in Laytonville years ago used to have a barter bazaar every summer. He'd have a band playing and be a show up Friday night, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And you're encouraged to bring boxes of stuff to barter or barter your services. That was the most fun I've ever had, I think. Yeah, we could do that again this summer. Or monthly barter bazaar or something. You guys are already doing that, right? Ellie's kind of doing it. Yeah, and I work when you guys are doing that. Darn it. Yeah, I work Sundays and Tuesdays and Thursdays, so it lined up. I was telling Ellie. Let's see what else I want to finish here. Cleansing, helmet. Okay. Okay, we're still being recorded, you guys. We're still being recorded. It's not quite over. I'm going to end it in a minute. It's been an hour. Wow. Okay. Any questions anybody want on film before I got a couple last things to say, but I want to make sure we had a burning question that we answer. It's related to this cleanse in the wintertime more. No? Any questions about cleansing or wintertime eating or? No, so the virgin oils are extracted raw under the raw guidelines. The low end is 105 and the high end is 120. So depending what type of raw foodist you talk to, extremists will say 105 and the more lax people will say 120. Yeah, there's there's some extremists, Okay.
Okay, so if you have digestive issues because you ate something weird and you basically totally empty out your system, is that good enough for a cleanse? Does that count as a cleanse?
You mean like not eating anything?
Well, basically, Basically, I was dry heaving out of the other end.
Oh, I got a PhD in that.
Yeah, so. I mean, I feel like I was cleansed.
Yeah, you were. Oh, yeah, you were. Oh, yeah, you were.
That happened to me.
Do you want to go eat some lazy
So that's one way to cleanse people. Michael Tierra would have people cleanse them by having them barf. One story was he gave this guy like a big, large pizza and a bunch of ice cream, and he gave him lobelia and licorice tea. And then all the mucus went up into his stomach, right? All the mucus went up into his stomach to digest the pizza. And then he just vomited the whole thing out and he felt great because all the mucus came out with the food.
Tastes good too.
All mucused up and congested. In Ayurveda, the seat of mucus is the stomach. In Ayurveda, the center of mucus is the stomach. So why would they say the center of mucus is the stomach in Ayurveda? How acidic does your stomach get to digest food?
Like super.
How acidic pH does your stomach get to digest food? So you've got to make a very thick, viscous mucus to protect the lining from that horrible acid that will dissolve the lining.
But the mucus in your body will go to making mucus in your stomach and you can vomit it up and that's okay.
A lot of the mucus in the body are in the lungs and in the stomach, yeah. You know, the mucous membranes. But the stomach's a big one. We don't think about it. So that was just a Tierra method, and Tierra was very radical in a lot of ways. This guy was, you know, he was, as a teacher, I just loved his adventuresome spirit, but his clients didn't appreciate it. You know, like, hey, just have you vomit, you know, like bloodletting. He did bloodletting, all kinds of stuff. You know, you just never, you would never expect, you know. Yeah, you'll probably get edited out later. Like I said, this is a private membership call, so you know you're acknowledging that you're on notice by watching this call. So turn it off if you don't like what we're saying.
Don't do that very often. It's terrible for your teeth.
It's terrible. It's terrible. No.
All that acid.
But then you can go the other end. So this client, this new client is telling me about the colitis. She gets like her bowels slow down, but then when she does have a bowel movement, she's nauseous while she's having a bowel movement. What's that about?
Why is that?
Don't tell us, Craig.
Oh, I just love it.
Next week.
Let's suspense. Yeah, next week. Yeah. Right. No. And you stay tuned next week and he'll talk.
Damn it.
So-
You gotta tell us now.
There's this thing, the stomach energy, the meridian starts here and goes down, okay? And the large intestine is what I call the cork. So if you have slow bowels, then this stops going down, right? Because it's a roadblock called the cork in the intestines is not moving. So nausea is the slowing of that energy moving, wanting to go down to these toes here. And vomiting is a reversal of the stomach meridian up this way. The stomach meridian goes down. So when you vomit, the stomach chi has reversed and gone up. That's not good, yeah. That's why when women are menstruating, it's not good to do inversions.
So why does sodium nitrite, the 1/2 of MMS when you don't take the citric acid, why does that nauseate?
Sodium hypochlorite.
Hypochlorite.
Not sodium nitrate.
Yeah, we don't want, yeah, so not sodium nitrate, hypochlorite. The chlorine, I mean, the chloride molecule, you know, that's why it's always bound to sodium or bound to a positive cation or an alkaline element, because it's you know, it'll cause some destruction. And the chloride isn't, you know, chlorine's an incredible disinfectant. So sodium hypochlorite, they were just by adding the citric acid, then you got the ClO2, right? It's the chlorine dioxide. And that's, I mean, I never got beyond 13 drops because it would make me horribly nauseous. Yeah, it's horribly nauseous, horribly nauseating. Because the bugs are just, you know, the bugs are upset. The gram-positive bacteria, I think, get the worst of it. And that's what Jim Humble used to say. The gram-positive bacteria get targeted by the MMS more than any other bug, I think. But you also, that targets the fungus and the viruses, and people are saying lots of COVID stories with it, so. You know. A good question. And you don't want to necessarily, like, this is the time of year to use sodium, and your sodium potassium teeter-totter, because they're antagonists. This is the season to use your sodium and less potassium. There's a certain metabolic type where potassium turns into an acid in their body. I think for me, that's what happens when I overuse greens this time of year. I get horrible allergy attacks. And so I do a lot less greens and a lot more calorie-rich foods, but raw calorie-rich foods this time of year. Raw liver versus cooked, raw butter versus cooked, raw fish versus cooked. I tried to have a raw steak today, but Bernie turned it over for me. I ended up charring one side too much. It was delicious. You know, it was like medium rare.
How much butter is raw that you can buy in the store? Pretty rare. It looks like I went blood.
16 to 18 a pound is the price. I'm getting mine. The Miller's Farm, our Miller's Farm order is coming up next week. So if anybody wants in on it, you can get raw butter from them from 6 to 10 a pound, depending on how much you buy. I got 50, I had to buy 50 pounds of butter to get it for $6 a pound last year. I still have some in my freezer. Yes, they do. Miller's Farm, who's on? Jean and Bernie and I do an order. That's through Jennifer Nomi and her old group, but Jennifer moved away and she's still managing the order every month. It's quite nice of her. You know Jennifer Nomi of her email? You can just email her. So you have to sign up. Miller's Farm is a PMA. Miller's Farm is a private membership, so you have to pay $30 for a lifetime membership from them, and then you can order from them. But unless you have that membership, they won't sell to you because it's a PMA. See, they're smart. Yeah, they're smart there. And they have a COVID video. It's called COVID Full Measure. It was on some, a news channel. And they come right out and say, you know, when COVID came in here, we had someone that had a cold or a flu. No one was ever tested. No one's ever been tested at this farm. And Amos is saying, yeah, you know, COVID came in here and somebody got a cold. And so we got the chalice out and we all drank from the same cup. The people got sick and no one died and we're good. And that was in May of 2020. And it was great. But I don't think that thing, you didn't see that in the media anywhere, did you? Well, active immunization was what it was called. And one of my teachers had 8 kids up in Berkeley. And he said in his neighborhood, with his family, whenever someone got sick, the family went over to the sick person's house. And as adults, all of his children have no immune problems. Active immunization, chicken pox, okay, I'll go to the chicken pox house. I got the cold, go to the cold house. You know, so I tell people, like, your immune system is like the military. They need to be well trained in challenging and diverse environments. You have a wimpy immune system, you're given the antibiotics your whole life and sterilized living, and you get the first challenge that comes in. And then, you know, I look at James and I think there's frequency stuff too, because if you don't hold your frequency well and in your consciousness, right, then you're going to be subject to all these other stuff coming in from the satanic forces, right? And more than ever, that's where I tell people, like, you know, fuck all this stuff and recommendations for the jab. Get green juices, a broken record, green juices out of the earth, sunlight, raw proteins, work on your consciousness, get your waste out, and you're good. It's really simple. You don't need the shikamic acid, the chemical this, and all these. Oh, I got this list 25 deep. I just sent it off to a client because she wanted all my jab recommendations because she's got an autoimmune skin thing after getting the jab. And I'm like, well, you know, why don't you just pick? Because I'm not going to give you, you know, there's so many recommendations that so many different people have, you know. So I put together a list, kind of like the bioflavonoid part and this part and this part, and did my best to just kind of like, you know, summarize. Here, these 10 put over here and do these one thing for these 10, these 7 over here, do this one over here and get it down to 3, 4, or 5 instead of 25 freaking things. And ivermectin, you don't need ivermectin. You can take wormwood, black walnut, clove.
Wormwood and black
Any anti-parasite will work, folks. You don't need ivermectin per se. If a horse parasite medicine works for COVID, what do you think COVID actually is? It's accumulation of waste that parasites are feeding on. So give yourself 25 bowel movements, like Katie said, and the same thing will happen. You know, take Cascara Sagrada and a bunch of laxatives, and you get the same effect. You're flushing all the waste out. It's the same idea. We don't need ivermectin. We don't study process. What's the process ivermectin is giving the body? Flush those fucking bowels. Use my language. Yeah, tonic water. You know.
Wormwood first, standby.
Yeah, I do wormwood, black walnut, clove as my base parasite gland, and then out of the stuff in there. Why buy it from you? I'll sell it for a third of the price here. I tell people, like, why pay $20 an ounce when you can pay $7? That's what I charge. No, I have it in liquid. I don't. Herbs are always best in liquid form. I have whining client. I don't want to do flavor that way. It's awful and bitter. No, they're not in bottles. They're not bottled or anything. There's a big master bottle that needs to be put in individual bottles. Well, MediHerb has a wormwood tablet. So like, okay, take the freaking tablet, it just varies. I've lost clients, that's all we got. So, like we're talking about radishes, me and Shahid. So the doctor gives you a prescription. Do you whine about the doctor's prescription? You just do it. For some people about radishes, there is no substitute. Craig, is there a substitute for radish? I don't like the flavor. Tough shit.
Thank you for the Mike Adams.
Tough shit. There is no other prescription than radish other than radish. There's nothing to substitute for it. The radish sprouts are great. I can do that, but they're still bitter and spicy. For some people, that's like not going to do it. So that's why the evolution was the radish salad is the evolution. Apples and olive oil, lemon juice and olives, and Oh, and pomegranate's good in there too with the radish salad. Pomegranate's good. Okay, winding down here. I think we got all this covered now. So the cleanse will be, depending on the weather, we could go deep, but I'm going to plan on a 3-day fast. I always have that intention to do a 3-day fast. If the weather's good, if it's not, then no. So the other idea on the 3-day fast is to go down to Colette's, and just rent a place. And then, there's 10 of us in that big house down there. Then, you're going to fast more likely than if you're on your own. That's for sure. You have the group, and then you have the intention with the group and the accountability with the group. And then my favorite was the breatharians, though, that they were sneaking food at this one retreat at the Brookdale Lodge, or being this breatharian. They weren't eating all weekend. And then I go to the chef, I go, watch, the 2 leaders will be up here for your mashed potatoes on Saturday night. I came in on Sunday brunch. I said, hey, did they come? He goes, they're up here at 10:30, looking around for the food. They were saying they were breatharians, and we both knew they weren't. Busted.
So if you go on a fast and then you go for the mashed potatoes, you get arthritis really quick from the nightshade aspect.
Yeah.
Just like when you took some drugs.
How we come off a cleanse is as important as going in or more. I've made myself more sick by overeating, by ending a cleanse, than any other thing I've ever done in my life. I felt awful. Think about it. You squeeze your sponge super clean, and it's going to soak up everything bad right away, right? So you want to be carefully add stuff in, right? Oh, yeah.
They're roots, they're like carrots.
Oh, yeah. But you ever grown potatoes? They're kind of viney. They can be kind of viney. Yeah, they can be kind of viney. Well, here's the nightshade family. Tobacco is a nightshade. Belladonna is a nightshade. Datura is a nightshade. So as a plant family, the nightshade family is called flying medicine. Why? Because it upsets mineral metabolism, and there's no kite string holder, and the kite flies away. No. Sweet potato and yam is not. Eggplant. So the plant family is Solanaceae, is the nightshade plant family. Solanaceae is the plant family they're in. And if you type in Solanaceae, you'll get all these plants that are in the family. But the one thing, the solanine toxin, it upsets mineral metabolism. It's well known in macrobiotics. One of the things I studied in the 90s. That's why people eat a lot of nightshades tend to be more nervous than those who don't. It's why I tend to avoid nightshades, because I want to stay rooted and keep my nerves under control, because I'm already out of control.
Is that true?
Yeah, it doesn't deactivate anything. So it's about kite management, right? You don't want your kite flying everywhere, because then people, do inappropriate behavior, which I do enough of. So I try to keep the kite string down to have a little less inappropriate behavior. It's like inappropriate behavior management. Lessen the odds. Here's one nightshade story. Okay, I'm gonna turn this off and I just tell the nightshade.